Hello and welcome into the PHNX Rising post-game show. Phoenix Rising with a win 3-1 over Hartford Athletic. I'm Owen Evans, joined a little bit different today. You might have noticed. This isn't Adman. It's not Adman that's standing right next to me. Instead, it is Ryan Sykora. Ryan, how you doing?
Glad to be here.
You made the short walk over from the radio desk.
We're doing Rising Radio all day, and sad that Max can't be here, but we're happy to be here and happy to replace him. Happy with a result in the play today.
How's your voice holding up? You did that game all solo.
No, it was fun. I mean, I always like kind of doing things that you don't expect to do. I was kind of thrown into the Rising Radio thing last second today, and it's always fun to kind of, do it. You can tell that my voice is not great because it's a little raspy and it ain't working. But
you can also tell that we are at the minute right in the center of the most happening Moth nightclub. If you're watching, they are absolutely buzzing around everywhere. But hey, 3 points for Phoenix Rising, 3 goals for them today as they take on Hartford Athletic. They take the lead early there. Danny Trejo with the fastest goal that Phoenix Rising have scored all season. And then they don't quite manage to capitalize on what was a lot of pressure in that first half.
Yeah, Juan Guerra in the midweek called them mentally strong players, and he was looking forward to seeing them bounce back. There's no better way to bounce back than score a goal 5 minutes in, right? So they looked really good out of the gates. They get a nice early goal from Danny Trejo, and it was different for Phoenix than usual, Owen, right? They were creating chances more so than this kind of just like back and forth, side to side possession in the midfield. They were actively approaching the goal and approaching the 18, looking to create opportunities. And that's why Trejo got so successful early on. And it was very important, just as Tampa Bay did to Rising last week, to get that early goal inside the first 5-10 minutes.
But even then, it's that little bit limited, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They're getting the chances. Yes, they put 4 on target, actually, in that first half. But at the same time, it's 60% possession. You feel as though maybe a couple of chances they left begging that, good chances, just didn't quite get the luck that way. But still, in the end, then Hartford get the penalty up at the other end. And I know some people are talking about if they think it was soft. Other people have turned to me and said, I think that was a very obvious penalty. What do you think about that one?
It looked as from a clear as a vantage point as you're going to get from our little northwest corner spot. It was right in front of us, right at the edge of that 18-yard box, and it looked like a pretty clear penalty. It looked like Openo just kind of skinned his way past Eddie, and Eddie was just kind of like, I can't let you get through me, and he gave him a little too much It looked like a clear penalty. It looked like a good call, and again, that was the only shot, I think, until like the 80th minute that Hartford had inside the area. That penalty
they
kick,
really weren't threatening.
They
really weren't
creative.
Threatening for much of that game, I think, and that's something that, look, Rocco made a couple of saves, yes, but again, as you mentioned, a lot of them from distance. Mm-hmm. They weren't really particularly dangerous. Now, Phoenix Rising, though, of course, you kind of get senses of, oh, God, here it goes again. This is a team that has been so dominant in terms of possession for so long this season that we're doing that again today, and yet you think, is the end product going to be there? You get into the second half, you see the one change. Juan says actually that's not performance related in the end. They chose actually because of the risk of him picking up a second yellow. He had been warned. He'd picked up a yellow card 10 minutes into the game.
It feels kind of performance really. In some ways, it feels
in some ways, but it's not necessarily the output, I suppose, is what Juan was saying in the post game. But he makes that change. As time goes on, you're still wondering, okay, are Rising going to be able to do it? Are Rising going to be able to do it? You don't expect it to be Carlos Harvey who's making that run, do you? Halfway across the field.
You don't, but also it's been Carlos at times this year. That's his 4th goal this season. He got the goal against Birmingham. He has a couple in the cups, but you haven't expected it, but he was gifted it right in midfield. A mistake at the back. I think it was Sheldon who missed on the ball for Hartford, and he goes one-on-one for what seemed like 10 seconds. It was like, when's he going to shoot? When's he going to get? And then Sanchez, the goalkeeper for Hartford, came, and Carlos, with the presence and the patience of a number 9,
just slot it through his legs.
Underneath. It was a great finish. I mean, that happens. That was the perfect way to do it. They get a gift, but you got to take advantage of gifts.
And then as the game progresses, of course, they ultimately put it out of sight. Manuel Arteaga, bit of fortune, I think, in that goal, to be honest. I mean, you create your own luck to a degree, but in that kind of position, the way it kind of bounces around, safe to say he was a bit lucky, maybe?
Yeah, a bit. I thought Monjoma did well on the right wing to get into the box and create the chance. And anytime you can float a ball to the back post where you've got the deadly guys in the box, the poachers like Arteaga, like Trejo back there, Danny just got a piece of it right at the edge of the back post and right before it was about to go over the end line, and he put it in the space where Manu was, and as a good finisher, a good poacher, a good striker does. He was right there. So, yeah, a little lucky, but as you said, you create your own luck, and he was in the right spot, and Rising created the right ball at the right time to go up 3-1. That was an important insurance spot, too.
Indeed, it was. Well, we do have the numbers now. Let's take a quick look at those numbers from this game. Rising actually here, you look at that XG for Hartford, 0.95. That was pretty much the exact same as Carlos Harvey had over the entire game.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, so that tells you a little bit about Hartford and their chance creation in this match.
Yeah, I mean, of that 0.95, I think a penalty is what?
0.788.
Yeah, so they didn't create nearly anything outside of that penalty from Edwards.
2 shots on goal, actually, is all that Hartford had. Again, one of them is the penalty.
Yeah.
Okay? They only take 5 shots in the end. Rising had more shots on target than Hartford had shots. Rising with 66% of the possession. As we have become accustomed to seeing, they're dominating the ball there. 2.24 XG for Rising. So, yeah, very dominant performance, I think, in a lot of ways. They ultimately, they were creating chances in a way that we haven't seen in some of their previous games. And I think you have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, you mentioned the possession that we've been accustomed to seeing, right? That 2.24 XG, we haven't been.
No.
It's always kind of maybe hovering just above 1, maybe just below 1.5. That was a big number. And again, it was because of a lot of the big chances they created. The Harvey finish was a chance that was probably over 0.4 XG. The Arteaga chance was probably over 0.7, 0.6 from open play. Trejo's goal was probably over that. So the goals they scored were high XG chances, but you have to earn those high XG chances. They played well enough, I think, to where that was nearly, I think, maybe their best performance on the season. It's close. It was certainly their most clinical performance in front of goal this year.
I think it's a good question as to whether that is their best performance of the season. Chat, let us know what you think about that one. I think that maybe, just maybe, I'd edge towards Birmingham Legion away being not necessarily because it was better overall, but because the caliber of the opposition in where they were, at least at that stage in the season, was better. I feel as though Hartford have come in. I think you had the stat before the game. These are the only 2 sides that have yet to keep a clean sheet in the league in any of their games in the league. And neither do it today either, of course, with this one ending 3-1. But I think that overall, yeah, you're looking at a team that came out here today, did take the game to the opposition, did create some more chances. I mean, again, even in the first half, and I know it's maybe to being a little bit critical of them, saying, again, we're seeing a team that has a lot of possession, could have put that game away, really, with the amount of the ball that they had in that first half, and they didn't do so. But they did have a couple of chances that maybe on another day could have been buried. I know there was the one header that was tipped over the bar in the first half that was, you know, it kind of has you on the edge of your seat when you see one like that. You're not really sure whether the keeper's actually going to make that save or not.
Yeah, I think it was Varela who got the opportunity. Sanchez, the goalkeeper for Hartford, actually had a really good game. So you give credit. Rising could have easily had 4 or 5 today, and it was really good. And you mentioned that clean sheet stat. You don't get a clean sheet, but you get a clean sheet from open play, which is pretty good. Obviously, it doesn't show up anywhere, but you'll take that. I thought for Rising, there were more crosses today, not as many as there were against, I think it was San Antonio or Tampa, where they just kind of were lumping the ball into the box, but I think it was Tampa. But it was just
Tampa, yes.
Yeah, it was just this mixed bag of they were getting into the right spaces, really just kind of the edge of the 18, not just kind of crossing it from deep, and they were trying to put balls into Arteaga, put balls into the back post. There was more variation in their attack, which I think helped them out.
I'm going to actually slightly show you up there. It was actually twice as many crosses in this game as they did against Tampa.
Yeah.
22 crosses attempted for Phoenix Rising.
Really?
In this game, yeah. 22 crosses, 11 against Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yeah, and a lot of them were good crosses as well.
Mm-hmm.
They were balls that weren't just kind of aimlessly hit into the box. They were really just kind of, we're going to finesse one in there. We're going to try and pick our spot in the area, and they looked pretty good a lot of the time. Goalie
Pat's actually got a good question here. How much of this was Rising figuring things out, and how much of it was Hartford just being bad, though? I think that's a good question. To me, in a lot of ways, Phoenix Rising, you should enjoy this win tonight. You should go in and be happy that you get the 3 points. But at the same time, I think today they met expectations in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we were talking pregame, and it felt like every bit of the conversation was, this is a must win, and it's not just a must win, but a should win. Like, Hartford are not a quality team. They're bottom 2 in the East, which is the inferior.
For a reason. For a reason.
The inferior conference in a lot of ways in that category as well. You look at them in Detroit, they might be the 2 worst teams in the division. But I think, as kind of stupid of a cop-out as it is, it's kind of a mix of both. The Rising played well. Their combinations were good. They built. They created chances. But they were enabled to do that because of Hartford's inability to do anything in the defensive areas. And I think what was most impressive about Rising today is they kind of snuffed out Sadie and Openo in the open field. They weren't allowing Hartford to get on the counter. Edwards' goal, he wasn't able to do much. Lewis wasn't able to do a lot. Hartford have guys that can really be dangerous on the break. And I think Rising with their back three, back with Fuenmayor and Crutzen and Lambert, that pairing, that trio, instead of Harvey at the back, it actually worked pretty well in terms of stopping Hartford from really being dangerous on the break. That's
a good point, actually, because, we've mentioned a lot in the pregame show and all of that about how Phoenix Rising had to be prepared to deal with speed today. That's what Hartford have in abundance, especially with Prince Sadie. And you've got to be prepared to deal with those moments on those counterattacks with speed. And that's something that we've seen Rising struggle against in the past. Sometimes because you see, yes, I know they're playing with the three at the back now, but you see those moments whereby those fullbacks, they rely on them for so much width, they bomb up the field. And then you have that quick counterattack, and all of a sudden it's like they are rushing back to recover. And that's actually in some ways why I think Babacar Jai ultimately needed to be taken off, probably at half-time, because you see how much he commits to that attack, and you know that if they have the pace going the other way, he's going to bomb back. Maybe he fouls someone in that process, and already being on a yellow, he can't afford another one. But I was impressed with the fact that they didn't really seem to give very much away in that sense.
Yeah, I think that the other key is, like, you look at the guys who were out there today, the athletes that they had at the fullback spots. Munjoma, as attacking and defending, is kind of, he's not necessarily elite at either category. He's an elite athlete. He's going to be able to track guys like Sadie. And at some point, they switched Sadie over from the Jai side to the Munjoma side and didn't even have any success. Babu, for as attacking as he is an athlete and is good enough to get back there. And Darnell, he was obviously going to be the more cautious defensive play in that moment, but you still did a good job of figuring out how to stop them. I think the only one who really had a lot of success when he could get on the ball was Openo. And Sadie, when he had the ball, was good. He just couldn't create anything from it, again, because Rising were so good at being able to stick with them and stick with their athletes because they were matching their athleticism. They were also switched on today, which we didn't see against Tampa. They were very mentally up for this game in front of the home crowd.
Are there any other major themes, I think, that you'd take from this game?
I thought it was another good game from Rocco, but that's something we've kind of come to expect. You give him 2 or 3 opportunities a game, you might score 1, and he'll make 2 good saves the other day. It was a solid game. He didn't have to face a lot, but he was good with the crosses. He was good sweeping off his line. I think it's always good to end with a goalkeeper, come back with his performance, and I think another solid performance from Rocco is a good thing to hang your hat on.
Well, after this game, you've been speaking for a lot now. You might need a drink when you get off. You've got your water there for now, but when you get out of here, maybe you want to swing by Circle K. Go grab yourself a Polar Pop. Did you know that we are excited to partner with our friends at Circle K? Check out your local Circle K for the best coffee, beer, and snack selection and premium gas. Remember, you can go stock up at Circle K. Polar Pops, they stay colder longer. Yes. They got a lot of snacks there. They got a lot of other deals available. Iced coffee, just $1.89. In case you got a late night coming up. But the semester's over, I believe, isn't it?
So something like
maybe
that.
Maybe not knocking back as many of those coffees.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Probably still.
You get 12 packs of beer for just $9.99. Red Bull, Monster, all other kind of things. Lots of snacks. We have the snacks at the office. We enjoy them there. Make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff now. Right now, text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club and get a buy one, get one free offer on a 32-ounce Polar Pop. You might need to go and check that one out, see if your voice afterwards.
I'm on the way now.
On the way. Head to circlek.com/store-locator. circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you. And while you're there, of course, I mentioned the beers. You can always pick up some Four Peaks. I know that might be what I'm going back home to enjoy when I get back home after this. Probably a couple of wows in the fridge, I think. Do enjoy a good wow. Make sure to follow them on social media at Four Peaks Brew and at Four Peaks Pub to get all the latest on Four Peaks. And they've just finished up, actually, their 4 Peaks for Teachers, their Teacher Appreciation Week. So good to see them out in the community and doing their things. And not only that, they've also got some promos with the D-backs. Again, just make sure to check them out on social. Check them out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub. Keep up with the latest. Must be 21 years old. That's Four Peaks. And make sure I will be doing when I get home to enjoy them responsibly. Right. So let's talk. We've been talking about some bigger themes, I think, and about bigger things that this team have been doing. Let's focus on some of the individual players here. We'll start actually with our player of the game, man of the match here. And it is Carlos Harvey. 1 goal, 4 shots, 94.1% passing accuracy in there.
Yeah, stringing them along. And it was kind of different today. Renzo Zambrano is usually the guy in midfield that's the facilitator. Carlos gets back into midfield after a week away in Tampa where he was playing as this kind of makeshift center back. And then all of a sudden, he's the facilitator, and he was great driving the ball. He gets the goal. He has all the shots, most of those coming from outside the 18. And you mentioned that they didn't have a lot of opportunities inside the area, Rising at times. A lot of their shots from outside the box were 1 or 2 yards outside of the 18-yard area, right? So they were actually not necessarily awful opportunities. It wasn't like you were seeing in maybe some of the games last year where they were just kind of firing on sight from 25 yards out. So they were contested shots. They were awful shots, not necessarily to take all the time. I think Rising, and especially Harvey, obviously he's your man of the match, and I would agree with that. They did a good job of winning duels as well. They were sweeping up. That midfield double pivot of Zambrano and Harvey is actually one of the best in the league, I think, when they're on it. And I think they might be the best in the league when they are truly, truly playing to their full power. Tonight, I don't know if that was their full power, but they did all they were asked to do, and they played well. That's why Rising won. They won the midfield battle today.
I still think it's something as well when you see a guy from defensive midfield getting that many shots off. It's just a degree of just sparking things off almost. It's a degree of forcing the issue sometimes, even when the team can be a little bit sluggish at moments. And again, I mean, just for that run alone, I was not expecting it. I actually asked that to Juan in the post game, and I was like, you see a goal, it's a quick breakaway over that sheer amount of distance. Are you expecting it to be Carlos Harvey who's doing that? And he kind of laughed for a second and just goes, probably not. No.
It's one of those where
you're guys you'd almost expect it to be. Like, if that was Danny Trejo, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You'd think, yeah, of course it'll be Danny Trejo. Of course that'll be the kind of guy to do that kind of run. But not Carlos Harvey.
No, it's one of those where I think you're, as a coach on the technical area, you're going, you look up, you say, oh, that's Carlos. And you kind of are like, oh, we're one-on-one. And then you look and you think to yourself, you go, oh, that's Carlos. That's not Danny. That's not someone who's quicker. It's not someone who you'd expect to be in that area trying to close it out. And when he finishes it, you're just like, okay, we'll take it. And again, it was a good finish. He finds it right between the keeper's legs. He does a good job in a composed moment. The hardest part about those kinds of chances is you've picked up the ball at midfield. You're one-on-one for 40 yards. You've got 4 or 5 seconds to figure out what you're going to do, and it's a mental battle more than it is a physical battle. And he ended up winning that mental battle, which was important, and it was an important goal. It ends up being the winner, and that allowed Rising to kind of just spur on from there.
Was indeed. Is there anyone else in particular? I think you mentioned Rocco earlier. Anyone else in particular that you pull out who you think really did a good job today?
I think the insertion of Alejandro Fuenmayor back into the middle of the center back trio was really important. He didn't necessarily flash anything super special, but he's so good at reading lines and cutting off passes and turning those cutoff passes into these short little build-up plays, and he allows them to flow freely. And then also he has that 1 or 2 moments where he frees it up with a long diagonal ball over the top to switch fields. I think he was good to have him back. I don't know if he necessarily stood out, but I think him being back at the heart of the defense and allowing Harvey to move further up, you move Lambert out wide and you move Crutzen into these spaces, and Kevin can go play further up the pitch because Fuenmayor is back there. He gives you that solidity back there, that confidence that you can just play your game more when Fuenmayor is back in the defensive area.
Indeed, and just some numbers on Fuenmayor there. Actually wins 7 of 12 duels today. He goes 4 for 4 in tackles today, and 8 clearances as well. So safety first a little bit as well, 2 interceptions. I think he had a very good game overall. I'd agree. Someone else I'd note, actually, I thought that Eddie Manjoma also put in a good shift. Someone else, I mentioned the duels there. He won 7 of 9 today as a fullback. And not only that, you saw, I think, in moments, especially in the first half, just the footwork that he came into the opposition box for. He was dancing around some of those defenders in there. And maybe the final ball wasn't quite there on times, but it was still just beautiful to watch someone get up there, taking on defenders in the way that he was, and causing a bit of a panic for the defense.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch a guy like Eddie, who clearly has the pedigree, comes from FC Dallas, played well in college at SMU. He's a good player. He's a player that on his day can maybe be above this level. And that's fun for a Rising team that in Juan Guerra's style of play, it's so fullback, so outside wingback oriented. When you have guys like Uzo and you have guys like Manjoma to back him up. And on the left side, you've got a guy like Gaby Torres and Jai who can back him up, and Quaisho can play in either spots, and Gallardo can play there. They have all these options, and Manjoma playing well today, giving his first full 90 for the team in USL Championship play. He's such a confident player, and when he works on his confidence and he's on his full confidence, he might be one of the two best fullbacks in this team. I don't think anyone is going to touch Uzo, and that's hard for him because he's also a right back, and Manjoma's never going to get up over Uzo, but this is a chance for him to take a spot and take it while Uzo's out with a lower body injury. So it's kind of cool to watch him play with some confidence, some swagger, and show what he did today and go the full 90.
Worth noting as well, 3 out of 4 dribbles for Manjoma successful. The other fullback who started today only put 45 minutes in there. But Babacar Jai, 5 for 5 on his dribbles today. He just takes people on, but it was working today. Yeah. There were a couple of moments where I think the frustration with Babu was not necessarily the way that he was taking people on. It was perhaps the slowness to actually get that final ball out of him once he got into the opposition penalty area, or even, to be honest, the fact that you saw opposition players hacking at him and you look at him and just say, you know, far be it from me to say a player should go down, but sometimes a player, you should go down. You should go down. That leg is swinging in. I can see that contact has been made. Take that contact and look for the penalty sometimes.
Has anybody improved more from the beginning of last season to this stage this season than Babu? Like, he has gotten so much more calm around the area, so much more patient with his decision-making. He was always a good dribbler. He was always a freak athlete. We saw that when he scored for RGV in the playoff game. He can just make this one moment magical. But I feel like this year he's been more consistent. I think that's actually credit to Juan and credit to the coaching staff to have turned a player who's got that much potential into somebody who can be a clear threat in the attacking areas from a wingback position.
Indeed. I mean, I'd say in some ways, maybe the turning point, the inflection point for him a little bit, I think could have been the game against New Mexico. I think he makes his very, very poor decision in that game. And I think it was kind of the wake-up moment a little bit for him. We saw what he posted on Instagram after that. We see him kind of taking responsibility for that and saying, yes, look, I'm holding my hands up. I let the team down today. And the way that it was, kind of spoken about afterwards was like, yeah, he understood the gravity of what he did there. He understood the gravity of how he let the team down in that moment in terms of, ultimately leaving them out to dry with only 10 men away from home in a difficult environment when you were already losing. I think from that point onwards, yeah, he's just stepped up. He's shown that he's perfectly capable of playing a role within this team, even if there's still some things he has to work on.
Yeah, he's been a really good attacking threat, which you don't always expect from a listed defender, but he's been so fun to watch these last couple of games. He was, I thought, really good in the first 45, and that yellow card obviously hindered him, and we saw a lot of those yellow cards today.
Can we talk about Danny Trejo as well?
Please.
Danny Trejo, the finish on that goal, very well taken. He also gets the assist, actually, on the last goal.
Yeah, I mean, technically,
3 chances created, yeah.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player who I think frequently we have turned to as kind of the creative spark on this team. Someone who, in moments where the team will be lacking, in moments where the team is struggling. By the way, they're telling you, Ryan, you've got to be facing the camera a little bit. You've got to look at the camera.
I want to look at Owain.
Show your beautiful mug. There we go. They want to see you. They want to see you, Ryan. But speaking of beautiful mugs, Danny Trejo, I mean, we knew what we were getting in terms of Danny Trejo from what he'd done in Las Vegas and how he'd been successful there. But I think just how critical he's been to this team. Did we expect him to be this important?
Maybe not. I mean, I thought so. I thought he was going to be a guy that is kind of used in the role that he has been this year. He's been Rising's get out of trouble guy. You throw him off the bench, he scores a goal against Charleston the first game of the season. He's been the guy that's sort of frequently sparked the team, right? And that 5 minutes in to score a goal, first goal in front of the home fans, first goal in front of the South End, to do all that in 5 minutes after your worst performance of the year, got the team going from the start. He led the way from the front. He was someone who I think has always been this guy, and even for Las Vegas last year, he was always the guy that was just going to spark it with his actions on the pitch, and he was very good at opening this game off, and it was so important to get the goal 10 minutes in, because you saw what Tampa Bay did last week. They scored 10 minutes in, they killed the game off, and Rising were able to kind of do the same thing today. They didn't do as good of a job as the Rowdies did a week ago against them, but they were still just very, very good at taking that early goal, playing well, keeping possession, being patient in their build-up. And again, it all comes down to Trejo scoring the early goal.
I mean, in some ways, I think it's just impressive when you look at a young guy like that, and he's just got that thing about him where he will, when this team is struggling, when they are at their lowest point, he will put them on his back and carry them over the line by finding a goal in some way, shape, or form. it's just impressive to me when you've got a young guy. And I mean, we know he's got ambition. Obviously, he wants to go to a higher level. We know that he ultimately wants to kind of prove that he deserves to go back into MLS, where he did make a couple of appearances with LAFC, and he obviously had that time on the bench with them as well last year while he was with Vegas. But I think he's really making that case. And to me, look, do you want Danny Trejo to stay around? Of course you do. But are you going to be surprised if come the end of the season, Danny Trejo is not a Phoenix Rising player at the end of the year?
Not at all. I think there's a couple guys. Like I've spoken often, I think, about Harvey and his ability to maybe be a guy who you could see on the bench of like an RSL or like a Montreal, somebody like that. There are a couple guys on this Rising team. If Varela is able to find a consistent rhythm and a consistent ability in the attacking third, he's one of them as well.
Which he hasn't done yet.
Yeah, and that's been a big disappointment as a part of the season so far. He shows spurts, he shows moments, but Rising have 3 or 4 guys that on their day, and if they can find a consistent ability to stay on their day, will be above this level next year. And that's just the matter that it is, and that's okay because that means Rising are having success. If these guys are playing themselves up to a higher level, that can only mean that Phoenix are doing a good job and probably succeeding on their pitch.
Yeah, I mean, there's anyone else in particular I think you'd kind of point the finger to now and say maybe they still need to step up a little bit more?
It's Fede primarily.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say
because of the amount of fanfare that he came into.
Oh, yeah.
There was the expectation that he was going to be this very good player, and he showed some very good flashes in preseason as well. Of course, he also suffered an injury in preseason, which did harm the team ultimately. And we came in with all the expectations for him, and he just hasn't quite lived up to them yet. I mean, there's still time. There's still time to do so, but you just need him to step up that little bit. Maybe, I don't know, is he still playing maybe with a little bit of a nagging injury maybe in there? Maybe he's not quite fully back up to speed. Maybe he's just not up to speed mentally at the moment. I'm not sure what it is, but just something's off with him.
I mean, yeah, he was touted as this world-class passer, top 5, top 10 passer in the world on whatever couple of metrics that Rising were able to find. And at times he's looked like that. You look at some of the service he's played going all the way back to the opener against Charleston. He's had spurts where it's one ball over the top. He creates the whole play for everybody else. He's one of them. I think that everyone else has kind of been what you'd expect. Solid. Crutzen's been solid. Zambrano has been solid. I think it's really Fede. And from there, you just need the other guys to get healthy. When Quaysho's healthy, he's been good. You're looking at Uzo to get healthy again. That's been the big issue for Rising is you want him to stay healthy. You want him to stay fit. You want him to figure out how to get back on the pitch because not once this year has Rising been at full strength, being able to fully field their 18 best players, not once this season.
No, they haven't. Now, that did, of course, necessitate one thing, but I will say as well, there was a comment from Juan that this guy actually really earned his minutes on the field. And it was just a few minutes at the end, but it's Liam Mullins, of course, a local kid. He was signed from Barca Academy, I believe. Rising picked him up from. He's been with this team through the preseason. He scored against Colorado Springs in a friendly in preseason. He also managed to, he made the trip down to Mexico City. Actually, I believe I saw him at one stage playing out wide in that game as well, as a wing back in one of those friendlies because needs must.
Versatility.
At that time. Versatility. Young guy. We didn't get to see a whole lot of him today, but what a moment for the young man.
Yeah, and it's been cool to see some of the immersion of these new attacking young youth talents, right? As a moth just hit me in the back of the neck. Tobo Aurora getting some minutes earlier on in the year. I was itching to see Jack Ramirez today. I thought he might have a chance to get on when they got that 3-1 lead. That's a 16-year-old kid from here locally, right? Mullins has worked his way in, and to get a debut in front of your home fans with the 3 points on the way is really cool. And he was ready. He got on the field, and he was running around, chasing the ball, shaking with his head cut off, trying to go find a way to go see if he could create a turnover and get a chance to go one-on-one with somebody, but I don't think he ever got that chance. But it was really cool to see. It's always cool to see a debut from an academy kid to get out there, especially someone who, as you say, has worked as hard as Mullins has.
I think that's something that Juan has kind of really emphasized this year is the idea that they need to send a message. They need to send a message across the valley, across the state, that if you are out there and you have the talent, they will find you and they will give you your shot. And I think that's something that's important here, actually, as we could talk about this for ages, but we've seen the RSL kind of dominance in this state at times in terms of the way that they have poached players from here constantly, taking them off to play with the academy, with what used to be their USL team in Real Monarchs, but also then, you know, moving on to the to MLS as well. A couple of players, Brooks Lennon comes to mind, a couple of other guys as
Schmidt.
well. You to actually compete against that, you have to show that you are going to put those guys in, and that's something as well that was brought up in the interview that aired on the pregame show, on the PHNX Rising pregame show today, with Corey Robertson in that interview, where he spoke about how this club has moved beyond just looking for professional players to get wins to thinking they have to think long term. They have to think about what the future of this club is. The future of this club, in a lot of ways, is those young players.
Well, I mean, that's the future of USL. We've seen what happened over the last couple of years is that USL, the second division in American soccer, has become a viable option for European clubs. Josh Winder's about to go to Benfica from Lou City. Kobe Henry just leaving Orange County last year to go to France. There are guys everywhere now in this league that are 19, 18, 20, 21 years old that are going to get sold on, right? So there's an opportunity now, not only as a club to create more competitive players and better players by taking these academy talents, but also to make some money, which every club is interested in doing at this level.
Oh, yes.
If you can find that kid that's from, I don't know, let's say Peoria, and turn him into somebody who's a talent and get him into the system and get him into the academy and get him into the first team and get him minutes and get him scoring goals and creating chances, and you can sell him off for $1 million to some team in the Czech Republic, that's good business for the club. And I think that's why you see a lot of USL teams rising, maybe more so than others, because of the talent hotbed that this place is, trying to turn these kids into viable professionals that they can maybe help them win games, of course, but also maybe the off chance that they can turn it into a little bit more money in the bank so they can be more games, they can get more better facilities, they can do everything a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look into as well, like some of these guys coming out of Barca Academy, we've seen teams really pilfer that Barca Academy, other USL teams. Yeah. We saw El Paso do it with Diego Luna. We've seen Orange County do it a couple of times as well. Yeah. We've seen these teams are doing it, and then you've got PHNX Rising that is literally
right there,
like 45 minutes away, and they weren't doing it.
Well, when I think it's Chandler, they were 5 minutes away.
Yeah, it really were not far away. It felt like they were practically down in Casa Grande at that point. But it just was so frustrating to see that. But now, one other thing I will touch on as well, looking at this game, of course, 8 yellow cards from JJ Belinsky.
I'm just going to let you go here.
Well, we did say before the game that he was averaging 8.1. He came in with 8 today. So, hats off to him on the kind of consistency, I guess, for the number of yellow cards that he likes to give out. But rumor has it that maybe Mr. Belinsky could do with a bit of a chill. Maybe he could do with a bit of a chill. Maybe he could do with some OGs, actually, after that game. I know that Max on here would normally be talking about OGs, about how much he does enjoy a good dip into the bag of OGs at the end of a night sometimes to just take a rest. Of course, they've got the Sleep Edition Aquaberry. That one definitely, he's touted that a few times about how he likes to take those. He enjoys the Aquaberry, likes to get off to sleep with that one. They got some new stuff coming now as well, actually, some new mix bags. They've got the fruits. They've got the creams. I hear there's also a pink lemonade coming as well next month. And that'll be very interesting to see quite how that is. Maybe we'll have to get Max to get some samples of that and put it to the test, of course, just how nice that pink lemonade will be. But, of course, you can find OGs at your local dispensary. To find them there, make sure to go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com. And remember, of course, you must be 21 or over to enjoy responsibly. And, of course, something else you need to be 21 or over to enjoy, but it's a good time anyway. Valley Tap Room. Rumor has it that Max, possibly myself even, will be there on Tuesday. Trivia Tuesday, 6:30. Don't miss it. Max will buy you a beer, is what I'm being told. Max will be buying beers. So hop on there. It's a good time. About 30-odd beers there. Lots of big wine selection. Lots of beers as well, in cans, in bottles, or in the fridge around the corner. And it's a good time. You can bring your own food from elsewhere. They've got a small menu, their own. It's a good time. Make sure to check out Valley Tap Room out there in Gilbert. And swing by on Tuesday. Myself and Max will probably be there. Maybe you can make sure to do as we did the last time we went to trivia and ask Max any questions about the ads. He enjoys it. We had a good time. Finished second in the trivia last time. See if he can come and beat us. So, Valley Tap Room. But as we draw now towards our conclusion, maybe we should... actually, you know what? I've got a question for you. Right. Who is the best coach in the country?
In, like,
in the country? I don't know. I'm just asking this question.
Dumb question. I like it. Who's the new? Is it Wilfred Nancy at Columbus Crew? I like him. He did really well with Montreal last year. He's doing pretty well with Columbus Crew. I don't know. That's my best guess.
That was the question that I was asked at halftime by Santi Guerra and his little friend, who I'm reliably informed was also the son of ASU coach Graham Winkworth. So,
I don't.
Yeah, they kind of put me on the spot in that one, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I got two little kids, both the sons of coaches, asking me who's the best coach in the country.
What'd you tell them?
They gave me the option to just say both of them. That's why I just said both of them.
That's
the problem. I know both of them.
Cheap cop
I know
out.
both of them.
Cheap
it's a cheap cop out. I know, but I'm not upsetting kids. Okay, not little kids.
No, that's fair. Sometimes the
it's,
truth
it's
is
not only
is
that.
real.
I mean, I'm reliably told by Juan that little Santi is his 401k. I mean, that guy's he's eager. He loves his football. Yeah, he's out there playing. Did you see him out there on the field
all of them
afterwards?
were. There were
They're
like
all out
6
there.
or 8 or 20 of them.
Lots of kids, but Santi wants to bring his cleats along to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he'll be out here. He'll get his debut against Orange County on the road.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe one day we'll see Santi Guerra lining up for PHNX Rising. In the meantime, should we take a look maybe around the league at some of the scores from around the league? Obviously, some of these quite eye-catching. I think we'll start with the two most obvious in that sense. Tampa Bay Rowdies 5, Detroit City 1. JJ Williams had a hat trick in the first half in that game. Detroit get their goal. I know they got one last week, but they got a goal. So, I mean, they've struggled to do a lot this season. And they still get battered. Absolutely battered at Allang Stadium.
And I think that's JJ's. Did JJ score a hat trick in the Colorado Springs game where it was really all that weather and Rising 1-4-0? Remember that game, the home game, where it was really, the weather was awful. It was like middle of monsoon season. It rained. There was like 2 people at the game because it was down in Chandler, and it got delayed like an hour or whatever. And I think JJ Williams, and they won like 4-0. He scored a hat trick. Tampa Bay looked good. Not as good as San Antonio. Not as good as San Antonio. That's the other one we've really got to highlight tonight. And that is Charleston Battery 0. San Antonio FC 7. Charleston Battery were up around the top of the East going into this game. Yeah.
They were one of the better teams in the league, in a lot of our estimation. And they lose 7-0 at home to San Antonio. Now, how good does that say? I mean, that's the question here, right? I'm struggling for words to describe this one. Is it that Charleston aren't as good as we thought they were, or are San Antonio, just when they are fit, that good? Yeah, so San Antonio got Mitchell Tainter back, who's maybe one of the 2 or 3 best center backs in the league. Juan Carlos Azucar started for the first time in a while. He played well. They got a goal from Sam Adeniran inside like 10 minutes. They've got a lot of talent. You chalk the 7-0 down to, it's one of those weird games where they probably turned 3 XG into 7 goals or 4 XG into 7 goals. And let's be honest. I think Charleston's still pretty good. I think San Antonio is the best team in the league when they're fully fit. They turned 1.94 XG so it's into 7 goals. So let's be honest. Like 1.94, you're not turning 1.94 XG into 7 goals. Well, one of them was an own goal as well. And that's fair. But like still, like it's one of those games where San Antonio were just absurdly clinical and probably a little bit lucky. You don't out XG yourself by 5 without a little bit of luck, but still 7-0 against a really good Charleston team is a result where it's like, okay, San Antonio are back. They're going to be a threat to now be really, really good through the rest of the year. There's one more that I will highlight here, and it is San Diego Loyal 2, RGV 3. That's, again, I know we saw San Diego Loyal fall at home last week, I believe. Recently at least. RGV going to Torero Stadium and winning there. And San Diego Loyal, to be clear, got their second goal very late. That was 90+3. At that point, the game is gone. They're beatable. And I mean, Rising now have played them twice. You know, they went to Torero Stadium. They struggled there a little bit, actually. Just a little bit. They couldn't really create any good chances. That was the issue, I think, more than anything. And Rising were caught on the break a couple of times, ultimately losing 3-0 in that game. But at home, Rising, they get 2-0 up, ultimately give away the lead, draw 2-2. But this San Diego Loyal team is beatable. And there's a couple of teams now showing it. El Paso did it. RGV have done it now. And they're doing it at Torero Stadium. Yeah. Are you concerned if you're San Diego? A little bit rough week for San Diego.
rough week. I mean,
very rough week.
The MLS stuff, and now you lose at home to RGV, and you give up 3 goals at home to RGV, and it feels like Rising caught them at the wrong time, right at the beginning of the season when everyone was shoving San Diego into the title shouts, and now it feels like they've dipped a little bit and they've turned a corner into a negative space that they don't want to be. Anytime you give up 3 goals at home to RGV, it's not a good
shift,
sign
is it?
at all. And
away to RGV is one thing, because they always say RGV, it's Edinburgh, Texas is the place where dreams go to die. That's a Devon Kerrism, I believe. It's not a fun place to go away to. It's quite sticky there. It's humid. It's just not fun.
But at home, you got
to get the job done against RGV. They're not that good a team. They are not that good a team. There are no real excuses, I think, to fall behind by quite that much.
I think to answer your question, right, about San Diego and if there's concerns there, I mean, yeah, there should be. They still have all this talent. They're supposed to be this defensive team that's going to be really hard to break down. That's kind of what Nate Miller has tried to turn them into this year. And again, you concede 3 goals at home. You lose back-to-back games at home. You're starting to slip a little bit. You're down to 4th. You've got 2 losses in your last 3. That's not a team that is defensively going to be good enough to win titles. You can't do things like that. They lose to El Paso, and then they get obviously what happened today to RGV. Their win is, I believe, Orange County.
Yeah, it's Orange County in the middle there.
So it's like
that was the result in the middle that came from last weekend that I've bleached last weekend from my mind in a lot of ways. But I forgot they got that win in the middle. But that was away from home against Orange County. Their last 2 games at home at Torero Stadium, they've lost.
Yeah, and it's not. It's again, if you want to be a team in this league that's competing for titles, you got to win at home.
That's
what Rising is, again, as low. I think Rising are in 8th in the live table after today. They have not lost at home yet. And that's something that I think they can build off of, and it helps you build off of. When we get in front of our home fans, we're really good, and we're good enough to just not lose every game.
Indeed, and as I look at this Western Conference standings, Rising are indeed in 8th. They are behind Monterey Bay, who are currently 7th, but they have played a game more. Same points. Oakland Roots 1 point ahead. Same games played as Rising. Rising could, in theory, with a game in hand, move up as high as 5th. Colorado Springs have played 10 there. They are on 16 points. Rising, of course, 13 from 9. Although right behind Rising, you've got New Mexico United, 11 points from 8 games. They played 1 fewer. And they won today, of course, against Monterey Bay. RGV down there as well on 11. They played 9 games. We're getting to the end of the show now. Any other thoughts just today generally on the USL Day?
No, I mean, that San Antonio performance stands out. They are going to be coming for Sacramento's Republic's spot. And I think San Antonio, when Rising played them a couple weeks ago, they weren't at full power. And it's a San Antonio team that when they are at their full potential can be really good. And they showed that tonight. And that was a big result for a team like them to get it done and to play as well as they did. We'll see where Charleston goes as well after that. It's kind of hard and honestly demoralizing to have to play next week after you lose 7-0. So we'll see where Charleston can take that as well.
We will. Now, I did see a comment in here from Devon mentioning about the fact that he is currently wearing his PHNX Rising scarf. He's put that one on. Remember that you can get your own PHNX Rising scarf, PHNX Rising t-shirt, various other things as well. You know, if you're not too scarred by the recent Suns result, although I hear there's been some moves on that front.
Money.
Even since. If you're not too scarred by the way that various other things, of course, in Arizona sports continuously go. The D-backs are hot right now. You can get yourself a PHNX D-back shirt. Go to the PHNX locker at phnxlocker.com. Check it out. And again, make sure to get your PHNX Rising scarf. They really do well, actually, over the summer. I'm not sure if you've managed to get your hands on one of them yet and seen them, but they're lightweight. They're nice. It's not hot at all. It's not heavy. It's good stuff. So make sure to check them out at the PHNX Locker, phnxlocker.com. Right, that's about it, I think, from us here. I will be with Adman. I'm sorry, Ryan, you're not joining us on Monday. Monday and Wednesday this week. So our usual time is 6 o'clock, but make sure to tune in as the moths surround us now. And we better get out before they try and take over. So Monday and Wednesday, I'll be there with Adman Max Simpson. Until then, see you.